New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. And as always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. And we are coming to you a little later than usual tonight. Usually we're on at 8, but unfortunately, I had some stuff come up here around the 8 o'clock hour. I had to text Kevin and let him know that we were a little bit behind schedule. We're here with you now. So in the end, it doesn't matter. We'll give you the best show that we can give you. Before we start the conversation, Kevin, how are you this evening?
Tired, but good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Been tired for a while now, and I suppose, hey, I'm here talking to you, so it's all good. Before we get started here, I do want to remind you that if you're in the market to purchase your first home, purchase your next home, or refinance, give our good buddy Herb Devine a call at 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, Herb has the knowledge and the know-how to help you in what can be a difficult process. You need experience on your side. Herb Devine has that experience. Again, give him a call at 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Kevin, we're going to start with the Patriots like we do every week. We're not going to relitigate the preseason game on Saturday. John Lyons and I broke it down after the game on Saturday. Quite frankly, I didn't think it was a great game. There wasn't a lot there to unpack. I know a lot of people have made a lot about the offensive line and Will Campbell and how he had a tough week of practice in the joint practices, but then he had a good game. Kyle Duggar's situation playing late into the fourth quarter. He had the game-sealing interception at the end of the game. Outside of that, there wasn't a lot there other than Travion Henderson and Efton Chisholm continuing to impress. Again, we've talked about all that. I do want to say one thing, though. A couple of things I should say. One, I think Travion Henderson's going to get a lot more carries early on than we thought. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think I said it last week. I want him to be the starter at this point. I just think he's better than Ramondre. He's obviously younger and has the fresher legs, but I just think in general, he gives you more from the jump on the field than anything else that Ramondre can give you. He's a better pass protector. I think he's more dynamic with the ball in his hands. And frankly, I know he probably won't fumble like Ramondre might. So at this point, I could see him starting against the Raiders.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think that Stevenson's their starting running back. But to your point, I do see him getting more touches than we thought early. And I do think his role is going to increase on a week-to-week basis. So I do agree with you there. I think he gives him an added dimension. And I think the one thing he gives him is he gives him that home run hitter they haven't had around here in a long time. Really, when you think of the Belichick-Brady era, outside of Randy Moss and maybe a couple of other guys, you didn't ultimately make an impact long-term. Can you really think of anybody, especially at the running back position, that has that type of explosiveness?
Maybe Corey Dillon, but he was more of a
No. Yeah, no. Corey Dillon wasn't this fast.
No,
Yeah.
but he'd run through people. But
Yeah.
in terms of giving you a 65, 70-yard TD, he's the only guy I can think of.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He's the only guy I can think of too. So, I mean, again, I think it's a no-brainer. He's going to get more touches. He's going to be a much bigger part of the offense early on than we thought. We all thought that over the course of the season, he was going to continue to get to play more snaps, get more touches. I do think now he's going to get that opportunity sooner than we thought. And, of course, Efton Chisholm scored another touchdown this week, his second in 2 weeks. He's had, I think 112 yards receiving. He has been terrific. Look, going into this game, I thought if he has a good week of joint practices and he has a good preseason game, I think he's going to position himself to make this football team. I think after Saturday, I'm off the fence when it comes to, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's give it another week. I'm on board now with everybody else. I think this kid makes this football team.
So it's funny. We all talked about him in OTAs, and he really was. He was incredible in OTAs. And then these first 2 weeks of camp, he did nothing. Like when you were down there.
Well, that's just it, right? He didn't exactly get off to a fast start in training camp. He was kind of, even when we met with him that day, if you remember, he was made available after one of the early practices. You didn't walk away from that thinking he's going to make this football team. I think now it's a fait accompli.
Yeah, I mean, just again in OTAs, it looked like, a guy who belonged in that old Josh McDaniels offense, but he just didn't have many chances or opportunities to make plays early in camp. And now all of a sudden, the last 3-4 weeks, there's no way he can't make this team.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know how much he actually plays, but you can see how dynamic he is, and you can see with the ball in his hands, he's shifty and he can make guys miss. So you can find a role for him.
Yeah, and again, I think we have to temper our expectations with him a little bit. I think he's the sixth receiver right now. I think that they're going to want to get the ball to those other guys, Diggs, Pop,
As they
Booty,
should.
Kyle Williams. Yeah, I mean, those guys are ahead of him in line. But I do think it's important to point out a couple of things here. One, I think he's played his way on the roster. You're not getting this guy through to the practice squad. And even if you do, you're not going to keep him on the practice squad very long. And two, there was a report today out of San Francisco that the 49ers front office, John Lynch, their general manager, is exploring trades, which again, I hate being in the business of starting rumors per se, but the first name you think of is Kendrick Bourne, former San Francisco 49er, has a good relationship with Kyle Shanahan, has a lot of experience in that system. Could he potentially be a trade target? Again, I think at this point, Kevin, I think I'd be surprised if Bourne makes this team.
Well, I was going to say, he's probably going to get cut. Like at this point, yeah, it'd be nice to get something for him, but Vrabel said today he's not practicing this week, and obviously with the Thursday game, you're not going to see him play. He's barely been on the field.
Yeah.
Throughout.
I honestly can't remember in all the training camp practices I was at. I can't remember him making an impactful play the times he did practice.
I can remember watching him play twice, like just in general, not even make a play, just be on the field. So, yeah, no, I'd be very surprised if he's on this team.
Yeah, so would I. And again, I think if they have their druthers, I think that they would rather shop him and get something for him rather than outright release him. It's the same thing with Kyle Duggar. I think it's safe to say that Kyle Duggar, the longer this goes on here, based on what we've seen the last 2 weeks, I think it's safe to say Kyle Duggar might not be on this football team come week 1. I mean, he might not be on this football team next week. He's another guy. Now, I think he's a more complicated case, but he's another guy that, he played until the end of that game on Saturday. Like I said earlier, he made the game-saving interception in the end zone that, of course, he also fumbled on. But again, when a guy that's making $58 million on his contract is playing into that part of the game, I'd be hard-pressed to believe, no matter what Mike Vrabel says, I'm hard-pressed to believe that this guy's going to be on this football team next week. I think it would be a surprise to me. I really, truly believe, Kevin, that there's 4 safeties ahead of him.
Yeah, 100%. And not only that, I was going to say, the writing's on the wall when you're playing that late in a preseason game.
Yeah.
So, no, I'd be surprised, too. Look, Vrabel's going to give him that respect, I think, and say all the right things and not throw him under the bus, obviously. But I feel like he's been on his way out since Vrabel got hired, just for the fact that he tried to get rid of, all those old Patriots and sort of revamp this team and his image. So I feel like Duggar's been on the way out since Vrabel walked in the door. He's just helping make that decision by not performing in training camp.
Well, I think there's a couple of things, though, that make his situation complicated.
The contract. Yeah.
The contract. You can trade him. I think there'll be a taker out there, but they're not taking on that entire deal. You're going to have to eat some money, and traditionally the Patriots do not like to eat money in trades. So that complicates things a little bit. The other thing is, if you outright cut him with the thought process that maybe we could sneak him onto the practice squad, that's not going to happen either. He's going to end up signing somewhere else. I think what this ultimately comes down to is he's not a scheme fit. He's not. He's more of a box safety, a guy that plays downhill. The strength of his game is supporting the run and coming off the edge in blitz packages. He is not a guy that is at his best when you're asking him to play over the top in a 2-shell or you're asking him to rotate over the top in a single high look. That's not who he is. He's at his best when he's playing forward, when he's playing downhill. In this defense, despite the fact that I think they're going to play a lot of 3 safety stuff, I don't think they're going to ask him to do that, or they're not going to ask their safeties to do that as much as he would have under Belichick or Mayo. So I think with all that being said, to me, it's the writing's on the wall here. Unless they have a change of heart after Thursday night, I don't see any scenario where he's here. I think they're going to move on from him. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Of course, you were up there today. Couple things I wanted to talk about in regards to today's practice and media session. You mentioned this already. Vrabel saying that Christian Gonzalez, Kendrick Bourne, not practicing, not playing on Thursday night against the Giants. Not a surprise with Gonzalez. I would think we're going to see him week one. With Bourne, like I said, it sounds like you and I have already written his ticket out of town. Couple of other things. Drake May really struggled today. And of course, it was a topic of conversation on the afternoon sports radio shows. I wasn't there. You were there. From what you told me before we went live, he looked pretty bad. Is the inconsistency we've seen from him in times this summer? I think he's been good more times than he's been bad. But when he's been bad, it's been noticeable. We saw that in the spring. We've seen it this summer. Was today as bad as we've seen?
Yeah, and I think it's because he has pressure for the first time. Like, think about last year. You had the whole, Jacoby Brissett thing, and, well, all right, now we'll start him. And, yeah, he went, what was it, 1-8, 1-9, whenever he went. But there was never any real pressure for him to be the guy, right? Like, it was just, all right, it's his first year. The training wheels are on. Now it's, oh, shit, it's my team. And I think you see that. Look, yeah, the team stuff was bad.
No, say it right. You got to say it like him. Oh, shit, man, it's my
Right.
team.
So, yes, the two interceptions were bad. One of them was a really nice play by Robert Spillane. He just ripped it away from Hunter Henry. The other one was right at Robert Spillane and really just a bad throw. But the more alarming thing to me, you know how they start the indie periods. It's really sort of white, and there's a group of receivers, excuse me, with the quarterbacks. And he turfed the ball to Stephon Diggs. No one around, just throwing it out to Diggs, maybe 5 yards. It was in front of him. Like it one hopped him. And he kind of shook his head. So it was a lethargic start, really from the jump in practice today. And look, it's a walkthrough sort of thing. And the team periods were not full speed, but you know how it goes. So it's worrisome. I've seen replays. Obviously, I was at Holy Cross during the preseason game. But I saw replays. He should have been picked off once, if not twice.
On the miss throw to Pop Douglas. Although I will say,
Yeah.
if he made a better throw there, he would have connected with him.
Yeah.
That play was not as bad as it looked at first glance. Again, it was an overthrow. Now, if he throws that ball to Matt Collins, he catches that. I'm not knocking Pop here on his height. All I'm saying is a little bigger receiver probably makes that play, but you can't overthrow a guy that size. You just can't. It's a recipe for disaster. You can't overthrow anybody, but especially a smaller receiver in the middle of the field.
No, I think the biggest worry for me now is the offense was really consistent up until that joint practice. Like that joint practice day, they were really, really good. It's gone downhill from there. Now, we obviously weren't in Minnesota. There's plenty of reports and video that they had a pretty good day that first day, but from what we've seen and sort of the duration of the quote-unquote first offense, there's still reason for concern heading into that Raiders game. It's not going to be, a cakewalk by any means. I'm not fully in panic mode about May yet, but between Vrabel needing to push him to lead more and then just a poor performance overall, that whole package, you'd hope to see more at this point in training camp. You haven't seen it yet. So that's what I'm worried about. But again, until you get to the regular season, and I feel like I think you feel the same way, it's really hard to truly know what he is.
Yeah, and again, I get you're going to get the media overreaction, and some of it is justified. I get it. But consistency can be a problem for him. It was a problem for him at North Carolina. We saw it at times last year as well. Of course, taking care of the football has been a problem in his short NFL career. He's got to do a better job of that. I thought you used a pretty accurate description when you called him lethargic and when you talked about him kind of going through the motions, if you will, for lack of a better term. You can't have that. If you're going to be an elite level quarterback in this league who's going to win games, play at a high level, make money, win championships, and eventually end up in the Hall of Fame, you don't take days off. I don't care when it is, what time of the year it is. You put your best foot forward every day. Now, look, I'm not saying that he came in. I don't want to speak for him in that sense. I'm not saying he came out today and said, screw this, I'm going to have a half-assed practice. But you've got to be consistent. You've got to be repeating your mechanics. You should not miss open guys against air. That's stuff that high school quarterbacks do. I lose my mind on high school quarterbacks all the time about that. Like, you should not, I don't care what level it is, you should be connecting with your receivers if it's on air. It's inexcusable. Not only should you be connecting with them, but the throws should be on time and accurate. You shouldn't have any dirt balls. You shouldn't have any overthrows, any underthrows. It should be where it needs to be because there's no pressure in your face. You don't need to rush the throw. You can set yourself. You can set your hips, your feet, and deliver. You can do it all. And so I think at the end of the day, that's disappointing to hear. Because if I'm Mike Vrabel, if I'm Josh McDaniels, that's really frustrating. Because in a lot of ways, that's on him. That's a lack of focus on his part. He's got to be better, plain and simple. And you're right. The pressure is on now. The excuses are over. This is your team. Okay? When you stink the joint out, it's on you. People are going to notice it. You can't put that throw on Josh McDaniels. You can't put that throw on Mike Vrabel. That throw is squarely on Drake May, and it probably has to do with the fact that he's not focused. So he's got to be better in that regard. Elliot Wolf also met with the media today, and he had some pretty interesting comments. Of course, the one comment that caught a lot of people's attention was when he said that the Patriots would be willing, that first of all, the Patriots are always open to making a trade, but they would be willing to use a first or second round pick in a trade package to get a player that will make the team better. Now, I'm going to ask you this question, and then I'm going to follow up with my response to it. I have a feeling we're going to say the same thing. Do you believe that? Do you buy that? Do you buy what he said, that the Patriots are willing to put future draft compensation on the table to get an impact player this year?
Nope, I don't think they should be either. I think you're still in the same boat with what we were talking about leading into this draft. You need to be stockpiling young talent. You need to be drafting guys and hopefully giving them second contracts. I'm not sure you're in a position to give up that draft capital right now. Now, look, I understand who the players are we're talking about. If you're going to get a Micah Parsons or a Trey Hendrickson or a Terry McLaurin, great. I'd love to see it happen. And yeah, I would give up the draft capital. But otherwise, no. They're not really in a position to make those kind of deals right now. At least I don't think so.
Well, I disagree with you on Terry McLaurin. I would not give up high-end draft capital for Terry McLaurin. I know a lot of people love him.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people around here, media and fans alike, think that he's going to come in and make an immediate impact. And I do think to a degree he will. But for me, Terry McLaurin is 30. I'm not giving him a lengthy contract extension because receivers don't age well. We know that, especially once you get to 33, 34, it's over. The tread's off the tires. The other thing is you're going to have to overpay him. And I think one thing to keep in mind here that's important, and I do think people are losing sight of this. Yes, they have $60 million in cap space right now, but a lot of these contracts you gave out this offseason to these free agents, you're not only going to be paying the guys that Wolf signed last offseason, the Mike Onwenus of the world that have a big cap hit next year. On top of that, now you're going to have escalating cap hits on some of these other guys. So in my view, the only guy I would consider trading for in that group is Micah Parsons. I would give up that draft capital to get him because I don't care what defense you run. I think that a player like that steps in and makes an immediate impact regardless of your scheme. Outside of him, I'm not paying that price or a similar price for Trey Hendrickson. Really good player, but again, we're talking about an older player. And I'm certainly not paying that price for Terry McLaurin. And to your point, for an organization like this, in terms of where they are right now, draft capital is vitally important because you've got to turn the roster over. You've got to be young. You want to have as many guys on their first or second contract as possible because that gives you the financial flexibility to add more to the roster. And I think at the end of the day, if you're overpaying for a guy like McLaurin, or if you're even overpaying for a guy like Hendrickson, not worth it. Willem, thanks for checking in, man. We didn't forget about you. Willem checks in. He says, hey, guys, at the Mexican bar, either my running friends, I'm assuming he's saying he's with his running friends, hope all is well. Can't wait for high school football. And Pats. Willem, thanks for checking in, man. I hope you're having a good time at the Mexican bar. I hope you're having some tequila and some margaritas. What do they put on the rim? Salt? Is that what they put on the rim for margarita? Stone, you're the resident alcoholic. What do they put on the rim?
I think so, but I hate margaritas, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, not everything can be steak and potatoes, Stone. Boston Sports Archive checks in. Thanks for checking in, Boston Sports Archive. We appreciate you, man. They could have gotten Joe Tooney for nothing. Pat success with Hinder on Will Hinder, I'm assuming he's saying on O-line. I agree. And I also agree with the Joe Tooney take because Chicago got him for a song. I would have given that up to bring him back. You
Should
know
have
what
never
you're
traded
getting
him in
now.
the first place.
Right. Well, I agree with that as well. But you know what you're getting with him. And he just because he had a bad Super Bowl, let's not forget he was being moved around last year, playing guard, playing left tackle. He wasn't in his natural position, which is left guard. He could still play left guard at a high level. And for what Chicago got him for, Patriots could have given up a 5th-round pick to get him. I didn't understand why they didn't get in on him. With the cap space that they had, looking to improve that offensive line, I would have given up the 5th-rounder for him. I just think it's worth it. You bring in a guy like that, he plays left guard. You sign Morgan Moses, he plays right tackle. You draft Will Campbell. Now, not only is your offensive line better and you have some stability, but you have a veteran next to Will Campbell, which I think once we get into real games and real game speed, I think that would have helped him having a guy next to him that's done it for a long time and done it here. That's the other thing. So I didn't understand why they didn't trade for him. That made no sense to me when you could have had him for that. That's a small price for a guy with that experience.
Unless it's just about staying young. But either way, I think you could use that veteran presence.
But and again, it's abundantly obvious they like Jared Wilson, but
Yeah.
this would have given you an opportunity to let him
Oh, yeah.
marinate a little more and bring him along
Yeah.
a little more as well. But yeah, no, going back to the last topic with Wolf, listen, do I believe him that they are working the phones, that they're willing to engage with teams on potential trades? 100%, absolutely.
Honestly,
I
I
don't
bet
think
they
he's
are.
lying about that.
No, and I bet they are maybe more now than even in years past. I just don't see anything coming to fruition. But I do think they're talking more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that they're talking more too. But I just again, I mean, that 1st and 2nd round pick next year, yeah, I put it on the table for Micah Parsons. I don't put it on the table for Trey Hendrickson, and I certainly don't put it on the table for Terry McLaurin. I'm sorry, man. Terry McLaurin is a good player, still highly productive. Don't get me wrong, but again, this is a guy that's probably going to want a 4 or 5 year deal. I'm not paying a guy north of $30 million a year at 34, 35 years old at that position when you know that receivers are at their best from 22 to at the most 33, 34, and then they fall off a cliff. No thanks. I'm not doing that. Again, Boston Sports Archive. Thanks for checking in, brother. Appreciate it. Means a lot. Willem, same to you as well. You are watching the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. And I do want to remind you guys that if you are in the market to purchase your first home, sell your current home, purchase your next home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, Herb has the knowledge and the know-how to help you in this process. Now, look, I've been a realtor for 10 years. You need experience on your side when you're dealing with mortgage companies and you're dealing with the mortgage loan process. Do yourself a favor and give Herb a call if you're ready to enter the market. He'll take care of you. I promise. I've known Herb Devine for a long time, and I know a lot of agents that have worked with Herb, and they swear by him. Again, give him a call at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Stone, this is your favorite segment of the show. Give us your Boston College update, thoughts on the Eagles, where they are. Of course, last week we heard the big announcement that Dylan Lonergan was named the starter going into the season opener next Saturday against Fordham. Just some thoughts on what you've seen from the Eagles since that announcement. You know, when I look at where they are, and I haven't been there in a couple of weeks, but when I look at where they are, I tend to agree with some of the sentiment that's out there, Kevin. I'm a little concerned about the offense. Do you share that sentiment?
Yeah, and health is a big reason why. So look, I do think their offensive line is going to be fine. Jude Bauer has missed a few days, which is a problem. Dwayne Alec has missed a bit of time. So that's your left tackle and your center right there. And it showed in the scrimmage the other day. Defense had, I don't want to say had their way with the offense, but That defense, top to bottom, I think that defense is underrated. The secondary isn't, but I think that D line is going to be underrated. And the linebackers too. We'll get to them in a second. But look, the receivers, if you have a healthy Reed Harris and a healthy Jaden Skeet and a healthy Lewis Bond, that's as good as anybody in the ACC. The problem is, are they all? I
I
know.
don't know. Yeah.
I know.
I don't know if I see what you're trying to say. I just don't know outside
As
of
a
Skeet
as a
if there's
trio,
enough
I think
big
they are.
playability there.
Sure, so that's fair. But Jaden Skeet's had a hell of a camp too. He's been their best receiver by far. Reed Harris has also missed a little bit of time, but I do think a lot of it's maintenance. And this time of year, you're better safe than sorry. So I'm okay not seeing a few guys until after Fordham. And I think we've talked about this. Turbo Richard, it's another guy, or Richard, sorry. It's another guy who is getting some
And
rest.
don't forget it's Favor Bate.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna mess that up this year at least once. But um, look,
I figured that's why I reminded you.
the talent and skill, and I think you feel the same way. It's there. Like I think they're deep on offense. We just haven't seen it with this quarterback in particular. So, um, I'm not concerned, but I do want to see it first before I go all in. But I'm high on their receivers. I really am. And then in terms of running back, they're four deep. Like you have Richard, you have Alex Broom, you have Jordan McDonald, and Bo McCormick has completely popped. For a kid who just joined the team, for the most part, he's been really good in camp. He's going to get a chance to play. Look, he's not going to get 15 touches, but he'll get a touch or two here and there. And don't be surprised if he's a special teams guy as well. So offensively, I'm not as concerned as you. It's linebacker for me that's the biggest concern. Yes, you have Davion Crouch, who is arguably their best defensive player, but after that, it's now what? Jason Hewitt, who's a transfer from Michigan. I think you're going to see a lot of him.
As you should.
Yo,
As you
God,
should.
yeah.
He's a good football player, and
Yeah.
I think he's a pretty good scheme fit in Tim Lewis's defense.
But, assimilating to a new program, it's
Yeah, it's
taking
not
him a
easy.
while.
Yep.
And he's sort of popped a little bit here these last 2 weeks, and I think he's just sort of getting more comfortable. And Von Pemberton, the transfer from Ball State, who we talked about in April, is a running back who switched over to linebacker. The kid keeps making plays. So don't be surprised if you see him as well. Bryce Steele has looked good. We still haven't seen Owen McGowan. And then Griffin Collins is another name to watch out for a linebacker. He's making a play a day. So that's sort of the concern there. But I do think they're deeper and more athletic than they've been at linebacker. So I'm still fairly high on them in general. I just want to know that they're fully healthy and ready to go, because it's been, to Bill O'Brien's credit, it's been a physical camp. He hasn't taken anything lightly. They're going to be ready to hit people when the games, really start for real. Really start for real. That sounds so dumb. But when things get going next week.
I'm considering the source.
Yeah, it's true. So I'm confident, but cautiously optimistic, just because there are still a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, you're running out of time here, right? I mean,
Right.
you only really have one.
Basically.
This is your last full week of camp.
Yeah.
That's it. You're into game prep next week. Next week is all about Fordham, and I'm sure they've already started on Fordham and Michigan State. But
yeah,
this is really your last full week of camp to get certain guys up to speed, to get certain guys healthy and back and practicing. You're not going to have that luxury next week. If guys aren't practicing next week, they're not playing on Saturday. So you need to get a Jude Bowery back. You need to get a Dwayne Alec back. You need to get some of these guys on defense back, because if you don't, then chances are that you're probably going to end up holding them out against Fordham on August 30th. So
I was going to say, I'm okay with that. Like, as a fan.
Yeah, I am too. I think if you can get some of these guys healthy for Michigan State, do it. I think personally, depending on what the injury situation is with Bowery and Alec, I'm not forcing those two guys back.
So Bowery, I think I think they're all going to be fine. Alec was in full pads on Saturday, but didn't really do much. So, I mean, he was out there. All the other guys have been out there watching practice, so it's not like they're being hidden or, the team is hiding anything. They all look okay. And I asked Bill O'Brien about those three guys, particularly on Saturday, and he said they're all going to be fine. So I think they're just being cautious, as they should be. But again, until we see this offense as a full unit with this quarterback for the first time, there's just a lot we don't know.
No, there is a lot we don't know. And I think we're going to learn a lot this week. Like I said, as they, in essence, wrap up camp. I mean, week 0 is this weekend. So, which that's crazy and hard to believe, but it is here. Of course, the other big story of the day, what came out of UMass, head football coach Joe Harasimiak announcing that Utah transfer Brandon Rose is going to be the team's starting quarterback. He, it appears, beat out A.J. Hairston, who seemed to be the favorite during the spring. A lot of people thought he may end up being the guy because he brings some dual threat capabilities to Mike Bajakian's offense. But in any event, he beats out Hairston. He beats out the Yale transfer, Grant Jordan. Brandon Rose, limited this spring, didn't really do much because he was coming off an injury. But nonetheless, he's had a good camp. Talked to a couple people that told me that the feeling around the program is that Harasimiak wanted somebody that's played at the FBS level, that has some experience, that can handle the volume of the offense. As we know with Mike Bajakian, he runs a lot of stuff. He's going to mix and match personnel, and he's a big power run game guy. So the belief around the program was that Rose can handle a lot from a schematical standpoint, but that experience advantage he had coming from Utah proved to be the difference here. What are your thoughts on this move? Or, I mean, are you okay with this? I thought it was going to be A.J. Hairston, to be honest with you. The reason I thought that is young guy. I know the Brown regime brought him in. Young guy, dual threat. Yeah, you may take some lumps with him early, but as he gets more comfortable as the season goes on, he could also be pretty good for you. Grant Jordan had a good spring. I thought if they were going to go the experience route, it would have been him. Ultimately, Harasimiak chooses Rose.
Yeah, I wasn't that surprised, and just for the reason you said, if you think about how much turnover there was in the program, right? Like how much experience they brought in, I think there's sort of a theme there for Harasimiak. They want to win right away with the new conference, and I think having that veteran's huge. I really think I shouldn't say the only reason, because like you said, those other two guys, they more than have earned the right to probably have a starting role, but just in terms of the experience and wanting to hit the ground running in a brand new era, if you want to win right away, I think you need that experience. So I think it makes sense. This wasn't all that surprising to me, but would you be all that shocked if you see either of those other two guys, though? Like, it could easily change.
No. I look, and this is not a knock on Brandon Rose, and nor am I implying that he's going to struggle. All I'm saying is, given the recent history of this program,
right.
they've played multiple quarterbacks, both under Walt Bell and Don Brown during the course of a season.
Yeah. And
I mean, unless he comes out of the gate strong, beats Temple, takes some momentum into that Iowa and Missouri game, and plays well enough where they're competitive, then I could see him holding on to the job for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to play at a really high level to hold those guys off. And again, I thought if they went the experience route and didn't pick Hairston, I thought it would be Grant Jordan, just because he had a really nice year last year at Yale. He can manage the offense. Knowing Harasimiak, knowing Bajakian, they're going to want to win with their running game, play action, passing game, screen game, play good defense, good specials. They're going to want to win a 3-phase game, which every coach does, but they don't always do it. Harasimiak is a guy that I believe is going to preach winning in all 3 phases, and they're actually going to prioritize all 3 phases. So from that standpoint, and plus Rose wasn't really a factor in the spring. So that was the other part of it. So again, talking to a couple of people, they said, no, he's had a really good camp. And I think he really grew on the offensive staff. And I think that Harasimiak and Bajakian are comfortable with going with him.
Yeah, and if you're them, look, you need to win right away too. Like, this is
can't. Yeah, there's no rebuild at UMass.
No, exactly.
There's no rebuild. I think the UMass faithful are tired of hearing that word rebuild. They're tired of the losing. They don't want to hear that bullshit. That they want to be competitive right out of the gate. And again, I know that puts a lot of pressure on Harasimiak, but that's the way it is, man.
Especially if you're him, this is your first head coaching gig, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, second.
Sorry,
head coach at Maine.
Yes, thank you. But even still, to make it's not a huge
first
jump,
FBS head coaching job.
Well, I was just saying to make that jump and especially coming into that.
Renowned football historian Kevin Stone, ladies and
Yeah. But making that jump and going into the conference,
gentlemen.
like we talked about, your reputation's on the line. Like you can't sit around. So, it's funny. We talk about Dylan Larnigan and Grayson James. How short will that leash be? You got to think the leash is short in UMass too. If Rose isn't producing, then there'll be no problem going to either of those other guys.
No. Now, one program that's not having quarterback issues, at least not right now, is UConn. Joe Fagnano is expected to be their starting quarterback, was their starting quarterback last year, of course. He is back in stores. Huskies have had a really good camp. Offensive coordinator Gordy Samus and defensive coordinator Matt Brock spoke last week. I thought some of Samus's comments were interesting about the offense and the philosophy and the expectation for this season. And again, we talk about Joe Harasimiak being a strong believer in running the football, playing good defense, playing good situational special teams. That's Jim Mora to a T. And again, that's every coach, but I don't always feel that every coach truly prioritizes all three phases. I think Mora does. Brock talked about the defense being aggressive, getting after it, guys getting more acclimated in the system in year two. Look, UConn, to me, you can make the case, if they're not the best coach team, college football team in New England, they're probably one of the three best coach teams. Jim Mora Jr. is not going to leave any stone unturned here. I love what I heard from both coordinators. I think in a lot of ways, I think it exemplifies where this program is now. They have an identity, and they play to that identity, and they're not shy about it. And as we know with Mora, he's not afraid to tell people what he thinks. He'll mince words with anybody. But it was nice to hear from Samus and Brock that, you know what, this is how we're going to play. No matter who we bring into this program, we'll adjust and we'll play to our talent, but we still philosophically have this core belief that we're going to try to be physical, run the football, be opportunistic in the passing game, play good defense, be fundamentally sound, and be aggressive.
For me, it's just about there's real expectations, and there hasn't been in a while. I mean, I guess last year there sort of was, but
last year there were expectations like we talked about because of their schedule.
Yeah,
and I think
now it's
coming off
based
a
on
9-4 season. Yeah, and I think coming off a 9-4 season,
yeah,
with the schedule being what it is this year, which I don't think it's any more difficult than last year. I mean, again, if you don't go 8-4 with this schedule, that means you had a run of injuries and you underachieved, and you didn't do a good job coaching the team. I mean, if they are healthy and they're consistent, and this staff does a good job coaching the team, which I think they will, I don't see any reason why they don't match last year's record or, dare I say, even improve on it. Usually you're bullish on Boston College. I tend to drink the blue Kool-Aid down in stores. So that's how we balance things out here at New England Football Journal with our college coverage.
And not only that, they have BC on the schedule again this year. You just beat them 2 years ago. There's some chances
they lost to them 2 years ago.
Yes. There's a chance for some statement game type of situations there as well for UConn. So on top of the expectations, they're looking for a conference, and they still know that. They need to start winning some games with more regularity too. So it's a sneaky big year for them.
It is. And again, unfortunately, I think one of the things that hurts UConn is the fact that they're in a catch-22 because you want to play a better schedule as an independent so that you can make a stronger case for a conference to bring you in. But then on the flip side, you got to keep winning because ultimately winning is the most attractive thing to these conferences. Eventually, they can look at this football program and say, man, yeah, I know they're not exactly playing the toughest schedule in the country, but they're routinely winning 7, 8, 9 games a year. All of a sudden, this football program becomes a lot more attractive. Now, UConn is also in a difficult spot because you have two high-profile basketball programs that are signature programs in the Big East. So that's the other thing that muddies the water. But, yeah, winning is probably the easiest way to sell the program in terms of it belonging in a conference and having a shot to win a conference title and getting that conference money and having a shot to play in the college football playoff, which, if you look at what came out this week with the Big Ten stuff and them potentially expanding to 24 to 28 teams, which, by the way, I'm all for. I know a lot of people aren't. I don't want to hear it. Now, I'm not saying this to you, Kevin. I'm saying this to our audience at large. please don't waste my time with the 16 playoff and all this other bullshit. The 14 playoff was stupid to only have 4 teams make the playoff. It's still, even with 12 teams, it's still the blue blood invitational. You need to expand it. And yes, I get it. Last year was not a good year for the SMUs of the world and the Indianas of the world. I get it. But you can go to 24 teams, double the thing, and at least give some of these other programs, some of these other Power 4 programs, some of these other Group of 5 programs a shot to get into the tournament and at least compete for a national title. I mean, again, even if you don't compete, let's say, and you get blown out in the first round, the fact that you got there is a selling point in recruiting. It helps you with the alumni, fundraising. It's a good thing. So I know a lot of people poo-poo the idea. I know a lot of people keep saying, oh, the magic number is 8. No, it's not. That's stupid. It's the blue blood invitational at that point. I want more teams. I want more teams. And yes, I know there'll be blowouts. And yes, in the end, the Blue Bloods will probably be the last one standing, but I still want more teams.
No, I'm with you. I love the FCS model. You might as well do that.
That's 24 teams.
Yeah.
So there you go. Speaking of FCS, of course, you did camp visits this week with Merrimack and Holy Cross. Let's start with the Warriors. What did you see from Mike Giannetti's squad?
They're young, but very familiar face. Aiden Pereira is now leading that team. He just looks more mature and sort of ready to take on that veteran leadership role. You remember at Maine, he didn't really have much of a shot. And he's sort of grown into that role now, being with Merrimack. Look, they're young. And we just talk about UConn being independent. Merrimack is living that independent life as an FCS school, which is even harder, especially recruiting. And I talked to Mike Giannetti about it. He said, look, we just need kids that want to embrace playing football for what it is. And I do think there is a lot of players on that roster that do just appreciate the fact that they get to play Division I football. But there might be some growing pains there. There was last year. If you remember right, though, they came on strong late in the year.
Until they lost to Sacred Heart.
Yeah. So, look, that the independent life in FCS, it is what it is. It's going to be hard for them to recruit the same type of talent. But I'd expect them to be in almost every game this year. I do think they're athletic in the receiver and running back room, and we'll see what they do defensively. They got to replace some bodies, and that turnover happens in every school. But I do just worry about the independent factor when it comes to an FCS school. I think they're the only one, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that's not easy. So
no, and I know that it's been disputed that they could potentially join the CAA, but
I would love it for us. But
I think it's the right move for them long term, and I 100%. Do think I'm of the opinion they're eventually going to end up in the CAA because the CAA is going to morph into a true Northeast conference. It really is. And I think you're still going to have your Mid-Atlantic and some of those Southern schools, but it's going to be predominantly a Northeastern conference. And I think if you're Merrimack, the only thing that's holding you back right now is facilities.
Correct.
And investing in facilities.
And clearly, the stadium is very nice. It's all the other stuff. The Wayne Stadium is good. They need to.
But is it big enough? Because when you're in the CAA, facilities matter.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Is it big enough? If you only have stands on one side, you can't play in the CAA.
Yeah, the beer garden isn't helping you either. That's true.
No, and right. The CAA doesn't give two shits about the beer garden. The fine folks of Andover and the Merrimack alumni love the beer garden. They can go on a nice Saturday afternoon, watch their Warriors, pound six or eight beers, have a couple of sausages, and hopefully the Warriors win and they go home happy. But the reality is the CAA doesn't give two shits about the beer garden.
So let me ask you this real quick. Dan Curran had that team a win away from winning a conference title twice, and they still couldn't get a sniff. I know they were in the NEC, but why? What's the difference now, you think, in terms of facilities? And because they were pushing back then to revamp everything too.
Well, look, I use Bryant as the example. Bryant's the best example. Bryant went from the NEC to the Big South to the CAA. And every time they made that move, they expanded their facilities.
Yeah.
Now, I think financially, Bryant is in a different boat. But I do think what's important to point out here is that if you're going to play in the CAA, you need to upgrade your facilities. At the very least, your stadium, you need to add more seating. Fine, you don't need to build an indoor facility. I'm not saying that. But you need to increase your stadium capacity. You need to invest in locker rooms. Like, if you want to reap the benefits of playing Division One football, and there are plenty of them. And I know I've heard this argument for years from people that, these programs don't make any money and all they do is spend money and they're in the red, blah, blah, blah. But times have changed. It used to be that way. But times have changed now because football is still a sport that can generate revenue. A lot of these other sports, outside of football and basketball, and maybe hockey. I mean, at a school like Merrimack, hockey obviously generates revenue. But outside of football, basketball, and hockey, maybe lacrosse, I don't know if I'd say baseball, that none of those other sports generate revenue. And so I think having the opportunity to play in the CAA, to have a larger profile, which makes your program more national, which makes your recruiting efforts more national, which could potentially put you in line to get some television money and some exposure and play bigger schools on the road and get bigger paydays. That's where the payoff is. But in order to get that, I think you got to make an investment. And again, I don't know Merrimack's financial situation, but I would think if they're poo-pooing the idea of going into the CAA, that must mean because that must mean they don't think they're in a position financially to make the upgrades they need. Stonehill's in the same boat. We've seen it with Stonehill where they made the move, but they haven't upgraded those facilities. They haven't. There's been talk that they're going to upgrade them, but you still have a stadium that's, 10, 12 years old, 15 years old now? It was really nice in you about 10 years ago.
It's a high school stadium.
Yeah, but now it's starting to fade. You don't have stands on the visiting side. Like, are you really a D1 program if your facilities don't somewhat look D1? Now, I do think in Stonehill's defense, they have the hockey rink on campus. They have a Division I weight room facility. So I think they could sell it. They could sell it to the NEC. They could sell it to FBS football. But I do think, FCS football. But I do think for Merrimack, part of this, and again, I could be speaking out of my arse here. Part of it is I think it's financial. I think they know that if they're going to make that jump in football, it's going to cost more. And maybe they're not in a position to do that right now. Speaking of Dan Curran, you were also, I should say, not also, you were also at Holy Cross on Saturday. What did you see from the Crusaders? And what do you think they're going to do this season?
Is it too early to say 7-time Patriot League champions?
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I say because you're on the same wagon every year. You inflate Boston College, you inflate Holy Cross, you inflate the people you like. So go ahead.
In my defense, Holy Cross actually backs it up. But look, they look the exact same. They're big up front on both sides. Still running back. There is a quarterback competition, which is interesting. It's either going to be Carlo Cussetti or Braden Graham, who I'm looking at now. I think it's going to be Cussetti. But both guys can throw the ball. They were both accurate the other day. Some really good team stuff in front of the fans. They had an open practice on Saturday. Old friend Jaden Clairvaux, obviously the dynamite running back for them. Receivers, you have Blake Youngblood coming back among some other guys. Look, they're big up front, like I said, on both sides. Skill, athletic, and we know what the schedule is. Problem is, the Patriot League is wide open every year. So, short answer, I think they can compete once again for a Patriot League title, but you also have a lot of youth there as well, and they're going to need to play a bigger role than they did last year. And Dan Curran specifically talked after practice about, the little things, the details, finishing games in the fourth quarter, making the plays to win a game. It's cliche, but they were either really good in some areas last year or really bad. Like, they were very inconsistent at times. So Curran's really pushing for consistency this year. But in terms of just the physical look, either how practices ran or just the build of the team, it's the same old Crusaders that they were under Bob Chesney and now that they are under Dan Curran. So I'm fully confident that they're going to be a competitive team once again.
Yeah, and when Curran got the job, we both said there's not going to be a big difference stylistically from what Bob Chesney did. and his philosophy to what
Yep.
Dan Curran's going to do. And they've maintained that same philosophy. They're going to win with their running game. They're going to play good defense. They're going to try to win the field position battle. They're not afraid to win a game 17-14.
Not at
Hell,
all.
they're not afraid to win a game 14-7. Bottom line is they're going to do whatever they have to do to win a game. If they have to win a shootout, they'll win a shootout. If they have to win a slugfest, they'll win a slugfest.
No, I was going to say, look at the Harvard game last year. I think it was 38-35 or whatever it was. So they can win games multiple ways, no matter who plays quarterback. So, again, for me, it's just about, and I forgot to mention old friend Mason McSweeney from St. John's Prep. We know how much Dan Curran loves his tight ends. He did at Merrimack, and he certainly will at Holy Cross, too. There's a few guys in that room as well. So, again, they're deep. There's just a lot of unproven guys there right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ivy League kicks off training camp this week as well. All the other programs in the area are also in training camp. As I said earlier, it's hard to believe, but this is really the last full week of training camp for all three of the FBS programs in the area. They all kick off their seasons August 30th, but some of the FCS programs kick off the following week as well. URI is playing a mock game on Friday. Our Charlie Adams is going to be there for that. And then the following Friday, they open at home against Campbell on August 29th. So this is the last full week of training camp. And next week, you're in the game week and preparing for week one. So it's crazy. As I mentioned earlier, week 0 is this weekend. You have a college football game on Saturday. You have a handful of them, but you got K-State, Iowa State, and Ireland, which I don't understand. I don't know why the F they're playing football in Ireland, but that's a whole other conversation. But nonetheless, college football is kicking off here in the next week. So, Stone, care to chime in on that? Why are they playing football in Ireland?
I don't know.
You're part Irish. You're part Irish, aren't you?
Yeah, half. I'd love to go if PC ever played there or Holy Cross, but the matchup is weird. Like,
is there an appetite for college football in Ireland? I don't know.
They've been doing it for years, haven't they?
Not for years. They were doing it for a period of time, stopped, and then recently they went back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just happy there's actual real football to watch, and we can stop talking about training camps for the last month and a half or so.
What a cop-out. You could have answered the question. You could have given, we have almost 500 people watching the show right now. You could have given them some real insight as to why they're playing college football games in Ireland. And then what do? You flip it on its head and you start to rail against training camp.
I'm a pro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're a pro bullshitter. All right. High school football, of course, also kicking off last week. It kicked off here in Massachusetts on Friday. Also kicked off in New Hampshire and Rhode Island as well. And Connecticut kicked off today. And, you know, when I look at Massachusetts, Kevin, as we go into another season here, and we're super excited, of course, to be covering college, high school football in all 6 states. And really, it's not always easy for us to find people that want to cover games and write for us. And that's been the case for us in New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. Every offseason, we put our feelers out there. We try to get young people that want to get in the business. We try to prepare them by giving them the opportunity. Unfortunately, it's not easy. I mean, I hate to say it, folks, but a lot of people don't want to cover games anymore. It's a challenge to find people that want to take advantage of the opportunity that we can offer them. Nonetheless, high school football is here. You know, when I think about Massachusetts high school football, and we'll start there, Kevin, a lot of big storylines. I wrote a primer on Friday. Will Catholic Memorial repeat in Division II? They'll be the prohibitive favorite once again. When you look at what they have back, Kais Flannery, they've got to replace some guys up front. You have Ramar Thomas, one of the best young athletes and skill guys really in New England, the Boston College commit. I mean, when you look at CM, they're CM. They're going to be a wagon again. They're not only the favorite in Division II, I think it's an upset if they don't win it in Division II, especially when you consider the fact that King Philip, Marshfield, Barnstable are all in 3 now.
Yeah, look, and I wanted to ask you about this too. I've thought a lot about the fact that you look at other states and how long, you know, they've been practicing now for. And I know we're not Hawaii, but Hawaii's been in their regular season for like 3 weeks now. At what point do we finally get Massachusetts on the right track in terms of starting the season a little bit earlier, getting these games done, and making Thanksgiving mean something again? And I know I just completely derailed what you asked me, but I've thought a lot about it. And Connecticut starting today, you mentioned, and Massachusetts Friday, and New Hampshire, and everybody else. why is it that we still can't figure this out? Like it's generally bothering me. I know it's bothered you for a long time, but we now have what I think it's 16 days for teams to ramp up, and all of a sudden you're playing a game. Like you're under the Friday night lights in 2 weeks. That there's something wrong there, and there needs to be fixed. To go back to your question though, I'd be stunned if CM doesn't win. It's CM, and you mentioned the BC connection there. It feels like that's just a pipeline now for not just
Yeah,
BC, but
Marcelino Antunes, their big tackle, he's a
yeah,
BC commit. Mac Fitzgerald, BC commit. I mean,
which it's a
yeah,
great thing
it's
for
been a
both
pipeline for a
programs.
long time. Jackson
Yeah,
Tucker, BC commit. Yeah.
I actually talked to him the other day about sort of representing the area now and being a leader. He said, "Look, I know I got an entire program still watching me, and I feel like all those guys feel that way." So yes, they're prohibitive favorites, but it's for a reason year in and year out. Like they produce some legitimate talent, not just BC talent all around the country. So before my little rant there, I'd be shocked if CM doesn't win again. To answer your question,
Yeah. And look, they at least going into this season, it's either them or Zavarian that are the number one team in the state going
yeah,
into the season. Um, to go back to your original point, though, and again, I don't want to go into this too much
no,
because
I
we'd
know,
really be opening up Pandora's box, and it's almost 10 o'clock here, and we want to give our viewing audience a chance to go to bed here. I couldn't disagree with you more. I've been very honest about my view on all this for the last 4 years. I'm a big advocate of the Connecticut plan. I'm a big supporter of the plans that Steve Dombrowski, head coach at Milton High School, has put forward. I think Connecticut does it right. I think that they do it right when it comes to their scheduling, their regular season, their playoffs. I think the only reason we can't get it right here is because the powers that be are more concerned about placating people and pleasing people than doing the right things for the sport. And until we figure out that 8 divisions is ridiculous, until we figure out that you shouldn't be playing your playoffs and your championship games until after your regular season ends, until we stop pretending like the solution is to start the season sooner, which it's not. For example, look at this year. You're starting the week one, and I know Labor Day is early, but teams are going to be playing games September 4th and 5th. You can't start the season in August. That's absurd. Okay. So, I mean, again, I know that that's always been the solution to some people. Of course, the other solution is get rid of Thanksgiving. That's never going to happen. So stop wasting your time with the get rid of Thanksgiving rant.
too much
That
money
ain't going to
involved.
happen. So, and what I want's not going to happen either. So I'm not naive enough to think that it is. It's not. And I know my good friend Steve Dombrowski doesn't want to hear that, but unless there's a real change in the thought process of how we do things around here, we're the system we're in now is the system I think we're going to be in for a while. So as far as CM, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think when you look at Division II, you got a lot of their main competition out of there. No disrespect to the other programs that are there, because there's still some good programs there that certainly will give CM a run for their money and be competitive. But again, that's a whole nother conversation too. Should they be D2? What inherent advantages do they have as a Catholic school versus public school? All issues that we're not going to solve tonight here on the New England Football Show. D1 intrigues me, by the way, because the Variants should be the favorite. They're going for the three-peat. You also have St. John's Prep. Christopher Vargas starting last year as a freshman. Now he's going to be the sophomore starting quarterback. He's going to be a year better. I like their young skill there. I think St. John's Prep is flying a little bit under the radar. I think they're going to be better than people think. And let's not forget about that juggernaut out in Western Mass. Springfield Central has loaded up this offseason. You've got a couple of those CM guys that have gone over there. Sanchez, fabulous. Of course, they've got Isaiah Rogers coming back, Jarrett Stain at quarterback. Good friend Voldemort Brower is back in the program as defensive coordinator. Bill Watson has done a terrific job there. Listen, don't sleep on them, because a lot of people are going to, and we're going to find out pretty early on in the season. They play St. John's Prep. They play Mansfield. We're going to find out how good they really are. And then the other thing for me is when I think about Massachusetts, again, we're going to get into high school football a ton here in the next couple weeks. When I think about Massachusetts too, I think about D3. D3 is an absolute wagon. It is a wagon now. You have King Philip, you have Mansfield, you have Milford, you have Milton, you have North Attleboro, you have Reading. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. Marshfield, Barnstable. I mean, whoever comes out of D3 and wins it, they will literally be the epitome of battle tested. It's a loaded division.
No, I agree. Just to go back to D1 real quick, Vargas just got named a 5-star
Yeah, I was going to
prospect.
touch on that at the end, but go ahead.
Yeah, so just it's funny to say that Prep is under the radar, even with that kid at quarterback, but they somehow are. But I think you pointed out that sort of it feels like it's that big three this year. And you mentioned the staff. Brower being back can't be overstated. I think that's a huge
Huge,
addition.
huge
Yeah,
for them. Yeah,
yeah, huge.
it's huge.
Just
No, I
just
agree.
the just the experience he's now bringing back with him after Holy Cross and UMass too. So I think that's enormous. I do think it is the big three for them, but that D3, you're right, it's loaded. I'm already looking forward to seeing that playoff bracket, and seeing those
Oh, yeah.
matchups. Every single matchup is going to be basically a state title game. So yeah, D3 is in fact loaded. I'd be surprised if your Warriors aren't there at the end though.
We'll see. I mean, and Kevin says my Warriors because I am helping out at King Philip again. I yeah, but I think the road to get there. See, from King Philip's standpoint, again, this road's going to be a lot different than what they've had to go through in recent years.
Yeah, it was good.
Get
It
to
was good to
Gillette.
see him.
So I think this road's going to be a lot different.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I think makes it different is there's a lot of familiarity there. I mean, especially when you think about Mansfield North, there's a lot of history there between those programs and King Philip, Milford. So, you're not fooling anybody. Not, and I'm not saying that King Philip was fooling people in D2. What I'm saying is, though, you don't have that same familiarity against a Chelmsford, a Winchester. Those programs, you didn't really know Arlington. You didn't really know a lot about them. They didn't know a lot about you. So, in a lot of ways, you had an advantage there. This is completely different now. Mansfield knows how King Philip wants to play. So does North. So does Milford. So, and then again, of course, you got Marshfield, like I mentioned earlier, Barnstable, and Rochette Cola has a really good team down there. So D3 is going to be a lot of fun to watch. D4 should still be really good with Situate, Duxbury, Walpole's in D4 now. Get some really good programs there. I'm curious too. West Boylston, they're going for another state title. They're going for the for 4 in a row. Mike Ross's team. Curious to see if they get it done. Uxbridge in Division 7. Matt Blood's team going for the three-peat. So a lot of big storylines heading into this season in Massachusetts, as I mentioned earlier. Connecticut kicking off today as well. A lot of big coaching changes in Connecticut. Tom Brockett retiring in Ansonia. Rich Boucher retiring at West Haven last week, which caught a lot of people by surprise. But then you have the return of John Capodice at Berlin. There's been a lot of coaching change in Connecticut. When I look at Connecticut, you start at the top, Class LL. I think Greenwich is going to be tough to beat just because when you look at what they have back, and they have a lot back from that team. Yeah, they lose Peter Von Volakis and MJ D'Angelo, but they have a lot back from that team. I think that they'll be the favorites in Class LL. Class L, and then the number one team in our preseason top 25. I mean, you have Newcane and Lou Marinelli. I mean, they're a machine. They're just a machine year in and year out. Darien, you lose quarterback Ben Rolap. He transfers to Brunswick, but Andy Grant's a good coach, man. He's got a good staff there. The Blue Wave are going to be in it. You got some other programs, obviously Ansonia, Bloomfield in Class S. You got some other programs as well in the other classes you have to keep an eye on. Windsor is another program. Quinn Fleeting going into his first season. He's got A.J. Robinson back at quarterback, 4-year starter there. And I'd be remiss, man, if I didn't mention Killingly. And one of the games that I'm really super excited about in the high school football slate to start the season is the game on September 12th. Bishop Hendricken out of Rhode Island, the powerhouse, the dominant program in Rhode Island, they go to Killingly, the quiet corner in Connecticut, to take on Chad Neal's Killingly Trailblazers. They used to be the Redmen. They're now the Trailblazers. But Killingly has the Allard brothers, Quinn Sumner back at quarterback. That's going to be a fantastic early season matchup. We talk about those interstate matchups, and anybody that knows us here in New England Football Journal, we love those interstate matchups in New England. I mean, they get us pretty excited. We get pretty lathered up over those. That should be a really good matchup early on. So Lot of really good programs once again in Connecticut. Should be a great season down at the Nutmeg State.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you missed any of it today, Andy Close and Rob Gould did a hell of a job. We have I think 4, maybe 5 pieces, all on Connecticut high school football up on the site. So definitely check those out as well.
I know, and I got a couple of people going, they're behind the paywall. Well, listen, man, we can't pay these people to write this stuff. We can't pay people that we're sending to game. We have to pay people we're sending to games. What do you want us to do? It's
Can't fix
$2.99
it.
a month. I mean, I don't know. Maybe give up a cup of coffee every couple of weeks and pay for it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Everything we make, we pretty much put back into the business. Stone and I aren't exactly rolling around in Bentleys and eating at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. So
If only people knew.
yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry that it's behind the paywall, but guess what? If you want to get content from other companies and other publications, they're going to make you pay for it too. So, and we're a hell of a lot cheaper than they are, and we do football year round. So I can't help you, man. I'm sorry. I wish that I could, but I can't. Unfortunately, we have to pay the people that work for us. God knows we're not making any money on it. We have to pay them. So it is what it is. All right, Stone, any final thoughts here before I get off the rails here and say even more?
No, because I was about to. So we should wrap it up now.
Yeah, good. And then before we go here again, I'm going to give you one more shot to clear the air here. Why are they playing football in Ireland as our resident Irishman?
Couldn't tell you, but I can't wait to bet on games this weekend.
What a degenerate. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the New England Football Show. For the great Kevin Stone, I'm John Sarianides. We will be back with you next week. Make sure you're following along. We'll have plenty of football content for you this week. Until next week, be happy, be safe, take care of yourselves. Peace.
See ya.